For the latest news and updates on Tibet, subscribe to Yarloong YouTube channel. And don't forget to click the notification bell icon.
Long live! Dalai! Long live! Dalai! Long live! Dalai! This is an incredibly powerful, strong, and resilient group that I see from here. I hear there's about 5,000 Tibetans standing shoulder to shoulder. And I keep saying that this is not a protest. This is an uprising. An uprising by Tibetans and followers of Buddhism across the globe, demonstrating the truth of power, shaking the conscience of humanity with voices echoing across the world. An uprising to awaken the spirits of our martyrs, the courage of our ancestors, because every time they come for His Holiness, they have to come through all of us. This is not a protest. This is an uprising. My name is JIGME. I'm a Tibetan, and I'm a proud follower of His Holiness the great 14th Dalai Lama, and I serve as the president of the Tibetan National Congress. Tibetans and followers of Buddhism are angry, hurt, and traumatized by all the horrifying accusations against our beloved Kundu, by the media, and by people who watched a 20-second edited clip with misleading descriptions, turning an act of kindness, a cultural prank, a grandfatherly love into something sinful and immoral. We recognize that child abuse and neglect are serious global problems. Many children suffer serious abuse at the hands of powerful and some religious institutes. Child abuse should never be tolerated. But His Holiness's act of kindness, humor, and warmth towards the young Indian child should not be compared to that. His Holiness has been in the eyes of the world ever since he was born. He has lived a pure monastic life of celibacy, preaching and practicing compassion, non-violence, and harmony. There has never been a single negative stain on his individual self. There has never been any questions raised about his personal integrity. His Holiness doesn't own private jets or fancy cars. He doesn't own houses or property. He doesn't even have a bank account. His country was stolen from him ruthlessly. He turns 88 years old in 2 months. He has difficulties in walking and needs to be helped with full support, and he's losing his hearing. Yet he tirelessly continues to share his wisdom and build bridges across nations and religions. He tirelessly strives to make a better world on the concept of universal oneness and human happiness. As humans, humanity should consider ourselves extremely fortunate, and we need to thank our destiny that we live and breathe in the same era as such a moral leader. His Holiness the Dalai Lama may belong to the world, But nobody knows him better than us Tibetans. He is not only our spiritual leader, but he is the manifestation of the Tibetan nation and our peaceful and honest struggle against a cruel, despotic, and a totalitarian government that is not only using a political angle and the magnitude of this smear campaign to align and to malign the reputation and the legacy. For decades now, the Chinese government has launched one of the most sophisticated cyber warfare and digital espionage targeting His Holiness, the Tibetan community, and our movement. The edited video of His Holiness and the Indian boy was first shared on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and it received about 7 million views in a day or so. These were not BTS, Blackpink, or Taylor Swift, but these were fake accounts, literally created a day or so ago. It's clear that bots were used to amplify the video to create the appearance of support while abusing the algorithms. The Chinese government's disinformation has a network of trolls in various languages across the world, paid media, and so-called influencers who have weaponized social media at an unprecedented global scale. China is clearly demonstrating to the world their disruptive and destructive cyber capabilities. Recently, the US-China Economic and Security Review Commission showed that Beijing's cyber espionage operation has a serious threat to the US government. In a snap of a finger, they can cripple America, its military, transport system, trade, communication, infrastructure, and even the electricity and water supply. I just want to talk a little bit about Tibet because the world needs to know that for 60 years, the Chinese government banned anything and everything related to His Holiness the Dalai Lama inside occupied Tibet. Tibetans were punishable for 10 years of intense slave labor camps just for owning his photo, praying to him, or even mentioning his name. The very existence of the Dalai Lama was completely erased inside China, and he did not even exist online. Last week, the Dalai Lama was trending and became one of the most searched topics in China. Official state-sanctioned accounts started posting the edited video and very badly photoshopped photos of His Holiness with the goals to defame and slander, and with hopes that the Tibetan people will denounce him. Instead, the Tibetans in Tibet have been celebrating, overwhelmed and joyous, being able to freely see His Holiness's photo online without retaliation for the first time in their life. For 64 years, our people were systematically imprisoned, tortured, murdered. But Tibetans of all walks of life continue to challenge the Chinese rule inside Tibet with vigor, resistance, and fortitude. Not an ounce of love, respect, and reverence for His Holiness has been lost. Today, Tibetans only have become stronger. So I tell people in the world, do not believe what you hear on the internet. A very famous American president, Abraham Lincoln, once said, the problem with viral videos is that they are often not true. End quote. People who have watched the viral video do not know that the boy's mother and his grandfather were literally at arm's length from His Holiness and watching the entire interaction. They do not know that there were more than 122 students, other dignitaries, present at this globally live telecasted event that happened over 7 weeks ago. They do not know that the boy and the mother spoke after the teaching to express their joy and happiness, and that the family recently sent His Holiness a letter reassuring that their faith and love for him remains intact, and apologize to him for causing this distress. There's been no concerns, complaints, or grievances raised by the boy, the family, the 120 students, the dignitaries, and any and all who was present at this teaching. Now let's take a moment to talk about the boy's mother. She is no ordinary mother. She was conferred with the Grand Doctor of Philosophy and has a degree from Harvard, besides various other qualifications. Her accomplishment and leadership around women empowerment and children's rights and education has won her countless awards and recognition, including the Mahatma Award in India and Time Magazine's 40 Under 40. So, how can people tell this incredible woman how she should feel and react? How can people undermine the boy's reaction and gaslight his joyful emotions so that they can validate their own insecurities? Who are they to demand that this family see the world through their own corrupted minds? Who are they to judge His Holiness and our ancient customs and traditions? If you do not understand our culture, stop imposing your culture on us. Stop corrupting and confusing your weak minds between love and lust. Please stop. Your privilege and your arrogance are disgusting and embarrassing. Instead, take a moment to watch the complete video. Listen to the interviews of both the boy and the mother. It's a click away online. To the global media, shame on you. You make our blood boil. You have blindly promoted this edited video with gross misrepresentation and using clickbait titles and sensationalized languages to boost your own rating and create showstopper contents. Like the speaker said earlier, did the media fact check the content? Did they fact check the source? Did they talk to the office of His Holiness the Dalai Lama? Did they talk to a Central Tibetan administration? No. Did they talk to any Tibetan? No. But why are they suddenly so silent about the boy and the mother's interview? Why are they refusing to talk about the full video and the various interactions that happened that day? I asked the media people, how can you survive on your wealth created by maligning a cherished leader that has changed the entire landscape of human consciousness with his universally accepted message of peace, love, and compassion? If these so-called journalists even have a speck of guilt and shame, they need to apologize to His Holiness. The irony is that He has already forgiven them. And we, as Tibetans, we will constantly pity them, but we'll also pray for their redemption. The media needs to stop controlling and influencing our narrative and dictating our history. They need to stop hiding behind their financial fear. Instead, find the courage to uphold their sworn journalistic standard and immediately remove the edited clips, do proper research, and present it in an honest and a balanced manner. If you need contents, talk about the 1.5 million Tibetans systematically tortured and massacred by this Chinese government. Talk about the genocide, the Tibetan genocide. Talk about our ancient temples and our culture destroyed, and how Tibet continues to remain the least free country in the world. Talk about how China is obsessed with the 15th Dalai Lama's reincarnation, even as an atheist government. To all the people who benefited using His Holiness's name for their personal fame and fortune, we see you and we hear your silence. We may eventually forgive you, but we will never forget that you chose to stand on the wrong side of history and hide from the truth. To everyone concerned about child abuse and neglect, we applaud you and we thank you. But we now call on you to join us to demand that China end the forcible removal of 1 million Tibetan children, some as young as 4 years old, separated from their families and placed in Chinese state-run boarding schools to erase their culture, religion, language, and identity. Join us to raise our voices on this child abuse, and let's make it a viral issue. To all my Tibetan siblings, this is the time to rise beyond our self-imposed differences and individual separation. Now is the time to rededicate ourselves to the goals which unite all Tibetans. Restore our freedom and independence in our homeland and reunite our fellow Tibetans in Tibet with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. What unites us all as Tibetans, beyond the blood that flows in our veins, is far more significant and substantial than our enemy's power and money. Always remember that as long as each one of us are fueled by our faith, flamed by our undying love for His Holiness the Dalai Lama, forged in our history and bonded by our country and our siblings there, nothing and nobody can divide us. We as Tibetans will remain united in our goals, in our loyalty, in our blood, and we will continue to be unstoppable, and we will last longer than the CCP government. Our truth is our weapon. We shield it not just as victims, but as survivors, as fighters, as warriors that flow in our blood. Let us not back down, because this uprising needs to continue. It needs to grow till every voice in this country, in this world, recognizes not only our truth about His Holiness the Dalai Lama, but about Tibet. Let us keep this uprising going, because the truth must prevail. Long live! Long live! Pegalo! Pegalo! Pekidapo! Pekidapo! Tuche!